Hello and welcome back to the channel. I got a request from a viewer to do a quick video about the top 5 or so sealed products that I'm either buying or would buy. So I'd like to talk about that today. I've got them laid out in front of me, but it's really important to understand why I would buy something and when I would buy it, for what purpose, what's the time frame, what's the horizon. So we're going to go over all of that. I'll try to keep it really quick and succinct. Let's get started. But first, if you like videos like this and you'd like to follow along, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, leave a comment. It really does go a long way. Now, this is not financial advice at all. It's just the opinion of an older person who's been doing this for a while. I've seen a lot. I'd really love to know what you think, though, so don't be shy. And especially don't be shy when it comes to asking questions of others in the comments below. One of the nicest things about having a comment board is that it's where a dialogue can happen. So don't be shy, chime in, ask questions, share your thoughts, share your findings. Maybe you've got a really good tip on where to get something for a good price. It's really nice to share that type of information. So what I've got in front of me now, I'm going to talk about a lot more than this. These, if you want to just kind of cut to the chase, these are what I'm going to talk about here. This is what I've bought in the last couple of weeks and what I would likely buy more of in the time to come. Of course, big caveat for each of them, so I'll go over that. But let's start by just saying and ask yourself this: what is the most important thing to go over in your mind before you buy a box? To me, that is whatever my goal is for the box. Is my goal to draft it? Is my goal to just have it sit and age and appreciate in value? Is my goal to collect the cards inside eventually? What's the goal? So it usually comes down to, I want to play with this now, or I want to keep this and play with it later, or I just want to try and invest, quote unquote, in this product. So that's to me, that's pretty it. I try to keep it that simple. What you have to be most aware of after that, to me, is throw out the buzzword here: downside risk. What is the downside risk to parking your money in a box of trading cards? So I do firmly believe that you should be parking your money in safe, common sense types of investments throughout your life. If you're watching this and you're in your early 20s, you are the luckiest person on earth, because at this point in time in your life, you probably have access to tools that I could have only dreamed of in the form of the internet, YouTube, advice, etc. You putting aside $25 a week for the rest of your life will make you a millionaire by the time you turn 65. It's math. So should you be doing stuff that's a little bit more alternative? Absolutely. But if I were you, again, not financial advice, just the opinion of an older person, I would make sure that I've got all my ducks in a row, so to speak, before I start really going whole hog into trading cards, alternatives, etc. Okay, all of that out of the way. Let's talk for just a minute. So downside risk to any and all of this stuff is I have my single favorite thing on earth stuck in a closet somewhere, and I can pull it out and play with it, rip it open, have some fun, what have you. That's the downside risk. The downside risk to me, it's not very great. It's not very great. Do not, I'll harp a little bit more. Do not go into debt buying Magic cards. I don't like the idea of maxing out a credit card and then trying to see if in 8, 9, 10 months I can flip everything and make 5% of my money back. I don't like living like that. It takes all the fun out of it, to me at least. Do your own thing, do what makes you happy, but I need to sleep at night. I don't want to hate Magic because it didn't do what I wanted it to do financially. That's a really horrible way, I think, to lose faith in something that you once loved. You're going to take the fun out of it that way. So that's what I kind of view my purchases as. I'm predominantly keeping stuff for the long haul. So I've rambled a little bit here, but I just wanted to get that out of the way. Don't go into debt. Set a limit. Spend what you can afford to lose on anything that's speculative. And in this, it's not so much to me about what I would lose It's what I'm willing to spend on my fun stuff for the month, right? So if this is my fun budget, that's great. I can keep it, I can sell it and make more money and have a bigger fun budget down the road each month, right? You can supplement your hobby by making some good purchasing decisions. And that really starts to compound as time goes on. Early on, you might not really feel the fruits of that because you're like, oh, I'm going to start getting into that habit. I'm going to buy stuff. I'm going to buy a little extra of it. I'm going to put that extra stuff away, play with this now, and then I'll sell that later. Well, it's a year or two before you really start to get that system going. It's a year or two before you really start to feel the impact of that. So be patient, be mindful, and you will take all the fun out of this if you overextend yourself. So please just be mindful and be sensitive to that. Okay, so that's gone on a while. Here are my picks. I love right now Zendikar Rising, Ikoria, and Crimson Vow. What do they all have in common? It's obvious, box toppers. These are great prices right now, if you ask me. If you can get Zendikar Rising, I was picking these up recently in the last video that I shared. I was picking these up for around $85 a box. Something in the water right now. Everything on the table here has popped up just a little bit in a matter of days, if not just about a week. So I'm finding Zendikar Rising at best for about $95 a box. I would take that deal. I know that 85 or 80 is better. 80 at a wholesale price, if you've got access to that, awesome. But 85 was really stellar. 95 to me is still fine. I have a long-term outlook. I have a lot of boxes of Zendikar Rising, but I have a long-term outlook on it. I'm going to put up on the screen in just a little bit a box topper analysis that I just did, financial breakdown really, of the cards that come in Zendikar, Ikoria, and Crimson Vow as box toppers. You'll see a really, really stark disparity. And it'll also underscore why I think $95 for Zendikar is fine, $95 for Ikoria is fine. Crimson Vow, though, Crimson Vow right now is $75 a box. I've said this before. I would buy a sealed Magic product, especially one with a box topper, albeit a lackluster box topper, I'll show you, all day. $75 is still $75. There are some other card games I'd really love to talk about. I'm going to keep it to Magic on this channel unless everybody's interested. There are some other card games I think that fall into the Crimson Vow category right now. And it'd be interesting to kind of compare contrast, but I don't want to permeate other topics into this channel without anybody's interest. So, and maybe let me know what you think in the comments below. But Zendikar Rising, about $95 if you can, awesome. Ikoria, $95 is what I'm finding. I'll put some info up on the screen. Crimson Vow, I'm still finding for $75, and I've loaded up on these three. Zendikar at a slightly better price, but Ikoria, I did sort of miss the boat when Ikoria had just come out. I wasn't really thinking about Ikoria long term. It's only been a pretty recent realization for me, so I'm with you in terms of what you're paying. I'm right there with you. So I'm buying Ikoria at about $95, but I'm also with you on Crimson Vow. Crimson Vow at $75 is what I'm buying. So the next couple, and then I'll talk about box toppers in a second. Next couple, I don't think that there's a person on earth that's going to go wrong buying Modern Horizons 2 at just over $200 a box. This set, I think unanimously agreed, this set is going to age perfectly fine. It is, there's almost arbitrage in the box. And arbitrage, of course, is I pay X dollars for this, but the contents are worth more. So I can pay X dollars, open it up, sell the contents, and then come back and buy another box, and I've made a little bit of money. A tiny bit. So there's almost arbitrage. It's not guaranteed, but this box has got several fetch lands in it, likely, right? Several fetch lands that are $30 a piece right now when their prices are kind of hammered. So more than half the box is probably covered in just a few booster packs. That's nuts. It's just nuts. And never mind all of the modern staples and Ragavan and Solitude, and the list goes on. I absolutely love this set. It is so fun. And let's talk about downside risk for Modern Horizons 2. This is a little more expensive, yes, but The downside risk to Modern Horizons 2 is I have a box full of incredible Commander cards. Like, that'll always be relevant in Commander. This will never not be a good idea to hold, to open, whatever for me. The same goes with Commander Legends. So Commander Legends, the price point that I'm willing to pay right now for Modern Horizons 2 is right around $200 a box. I see it on eBay right now for $208. I'd buy that all day. Think about what your time span is. What is your time horizon? If in a year you think Modern Horizons 2 is going to be worth significantly more than what it is now, and you'd love at the time to pay $200 like a year from now, then $200 is a great price. Like, I just don't know that any modern era boxes are going to eclipse, thousands of dollars. I just don't. It's really hard to imagine, because we've got Magic product that's decades old and is fighting to be sold for around $1,000. Your older stuff, Nemesis and Prophecy and Legions, these other Magic products. So it's fun to imagine a world where Ikoria sells for $1,200 a box, right? I mean, it could happen. How long is your time horizon? So anyway, Commander Legends is in the same boat as Modern Horizons 2 with me. The downside risk to Commander Legends is that I have a box full of Commander draft boosters for my playgroup. That's the downside risk. If you can pick up Commander Legends at just over $100 right now, that's what I'm doing. So I'm right there with you too. I'm with you if you're spending about the $208 that I show you on eBay here for Modern Horizons 2, and I'm with you if you're spending around $109, $108, $110 for Commander Legends. That's what I'm buying them for, and totally willing to buy them for right now. I do not know any of these eBay people or listings. That's just the ones I've been using to buy stuff. So all that's good. I'm going to put up on the screen right now. So let me take these out of the picture here. I'm going to put up on the screen now a quick box topper analysis. So if you look at the box toppers for Zendikar Rising, Ikoria, and Crimson Vow. Let's start with Ikoria. The Ikoria box toppers, here's the list. You can see on the left side are the box toppers, and then on the right side are their normal counterparts from Magic. So the total value of the Ikoria box toppers is staggering. If you were to buy all of them, it's $274 to buy all 18, I believe, box toppers here. There's an average price right there of $15. I mean, that's pretty good. If you're guaranteed an average $15 before you even start opening the booster packs, that's fantastic. Why these box toppers are successful, and also why I kind of are lackluster in Crimson Vow, is the counterparts are not necessarily that valuable. The total value of the counterparts to these are worth just slightly more than the average price of the box toppers, and that's combined. The average price of one of the counterparts is $150-ish. So the box topper subject matter was highly effective in Ikoria. The Godzilla IP, it just seemed to work for Wizards. People love the Godzilla IP. Compare that to Crimson Vow, and it's a different story. So Crimson Vow, the total value of the box toppers is $74. The average price of the box topper is a little over $4. That is a huge disparity when it comes to Crimson Vow versus Ikoria. So the total value of all the counterparts is $32, and the average price of the counterparts is $1 something. So the average price of the counterparts is similar to Ikoria, right? It's a relatively cheap card that they're basing the box topper off of, but the subject matter in Crimson Vow just fell flat. I don't know that these were radically overprinted relative to one another. This is still the print to demand era. So I can only kind of explain that and say, well, Dracula isn't something that Magic players obsess over. Maybe Dracula is not sci-fi enough. Maybe it's not, sort of adjacent to Magic enough. Sort of vintage horror is interesting, and it makes a good secret lair if you saw the secret lair. that was sort of themed after horror movie posters, but I think that the subject matter fell flat. That's the only explanation I can kind of come up with. All right, in stark contrast, though, take a look at the Zendikar Rising Expedition box toppers. This is why, at $95 a box, I would buy Zendikar Rising all day. If I had a much larger budget than I do, and also a much larger extra closet to put all this stuff in, I would scoop up Zendikar Rising all day. This is if I had to pick a number one here, if you're maxed out on Modern Horizons 2, Zendikar Rising is the strong second, if not tied for first, that I would be buying right now. Look at the box topper alone. You're getting an Expedition box topper in the box, and the total value. Now, granted, there's a lot more here. There's 31 box toppers. 30, I think, 31. The total value is $1,200. The average price of a box topper. Some are obviously more, some are obviously less. $39. That is insane. This is the same price as an Ikoria box right now. And you're getting a box topper that on average is worth $40. I don't know why Zendikar Rising is available right now. I don't know why this has all been scooped up and locked in a vault somewhere, because they contain one of the most precious resources that a Magic player can get access to, and that is a strong land base. They've got the fetch lands, Ancient Tomb, anything that you think might be relevant in sort of the more modern era of Magic is in here. There's some duds, the kind of the check lands and stuff, or some of the man lands. I think they need to call them the person lands, I guess, because I have no idea what types of creatures are depicted on there. It's a bunch of rocks walking around. Celestial Colonnade. The Thing lands. I think Thing might be more appropriate. The Thing lands. Celestial Colonnade is in there, kind of throwing it off, but it's right below Cavern of Souls on this list at $110. I just opened... You'll hate me. I just opened a Zendikar Rising box just for fun, just to kind of see what the box topper was. It was a Cavern of Souls. So before I opened any of the 36 booster packs, I already paid for the box. In that one, that's a crazy box topper decision from Wizards. So it almost doesn't really give them an excuse going forward to not do really thought out quality box toppers. So Zendikar Rising, the box toppers are awesome. Ikoria, I would argue, the box toppers are awesome. You can get some $1 box toppers out of there, but you can get some much nicer stuff, and there's a lot more of those than the $1 duds. Crimson Vow, the box toppers are just not that good. The other difference too here, by the way, the Zendikar Expedition box toppers, there are no 25-cent uncommons that are on this list. They're all rares, they're all functional, they're all good, they're all played. Ikoria, there are a couple of uncommons in there that I think for flavor they needed to keep stretching their card selections. Fine, there's just literally a few, 3 maybe, including the Mysterious Cocoon. I think there's like 4, but the Crimson Vow, the cards aren't that valuable to begin with. The box toppers aren't that sought after. Dracula just fell flat. I could go on and on and on. Let's move on though. If I were to give kind of an honorable mention here to this, I would definitely give it to Jumpstart. So Jumpstart, I just don't know entirely how Jumpstart's going to age. There is no precedent for it. And Commander Legends, while there is no precedent for it, I think it's pretty clear to me that the value of the cards that were printed just for that are nuts. Like Jeweled Lotus alone is going to keep buoying the box prices of Commander Legends. But I also really do love Jumpstart. If you have not actually played with Jumpstart, man, go give it a shot. Find a new player, open a couple packs with them, and have some fun. It is a really great experience. I think that's also important. If you're going to buy into a product, you really should try and play it, live it for a minute. Grab a box, open it up, flip through the set, see what it's like. Does this move you? Do you think it's cool? Are you bored by the cards? Are you bored by the subject matter? Because if you fancy yourself a typical Magic player and this stuff's falling flat for you, then it might say something. If you're not into vampire weddings, you might not be so interested in the set. If there are also no crazy standout powerful cards, you might not be that crazy in the set. I don't think that Crimson Vow is an overly powerful Magic set. I just don't think any Magic set should be sold for $75 a box with box toppers. That's ludicrous to me. So that's why I like those. So Jumpstart, if you can get Jumpstart in the mid 80s, that's fine. It's not like a killer deal, but that's fine. I don't think, speaking of, there are any killer deals out there right now. There are just good buys. Zendikar Rising is subjectively a good deal. So let's move. Here's another topic. We're talking about the boxes I would buy. I think it's also important to talk about what I wouldn't buy. Part of knowing what you want is knowing what you don't want. These are boxes I would avoid, not because they are bad, just this specific second in time. I don't think they're the best buy. I have a pretty sizable Throne of Eldraine position here. I guess if you could call it a position, whatever. I have a bunch of boxes of Eldraine because I love the set. But Eldraine was about $115 prior to the weekend, and it's the best I can do is like $130 on eBay right now, and that's just really starting to push it for me. It's not a deal, but it's not a bad buy. I don't think that buying Throne of Eldraine at $130 is bad because, again, what are you using it for? If you want to draft, $130 is already what you'd pay if you went out and bought $4 booster packs of Eldraine. So if you want to open it up right now and draft it, $130, who cares? Fine. Totally fine. If you want to hold it for a long time, I don't know, nobody does, how fast this stuff will appreciate. I think $130, though, is like a lot of appreciation's already been baked in. If you were buying this at $85 a box at launch, you're up $45. I mean, it's 50% more than what you paid for it already. So you're starting at that level. In this era, I think that Guilds of Ravnica and Ravnica Allegiance and War of the Spark are going to be really good indicators of where these newer sets go in terms of their ceilings. And that brings me to War of the Spark. So those are all hovering at around $150, and they've been kind of sitting there for just a little bit. I feel like we Magic players, we're so impatient because we measure time in such small intervals relative to the time span that maybe we should. War of the Spark is another one I would avoid right now. Not that War of the Spark is not one of my favorite sets of all time. It's that War of the Spark's $150 a box. I think it is absolutely worth $150 a box, and I feel very comfortable paying that. Is it a deal? It's not really a deal. It's just a fair price. So when you're scouting out things to invest in, you don't want necessarily a fair price if there are other options available at a really good price. It's kind of like I'm a football fan. I don't want to alienate anybody, but in the draft in the NFL, early on you don't necessarily take the player that you need. You take the best player on the board. So if War of the Spark's available for $150 and you think that's fair, but Zendikar Rising over here is $95 and it's topped with expeditions, and it's like we're just waiting to get the announcement that it goes out of print to watch these boxes pop. I probably would pick that, if not Modern Horizons 2 over War of the Spark right now. I feel a lot more confident in those versus others. Another box, this is a set that I love, is Kaldheim. But Kaldheim, I've noticed right now, Kaldheim is like just over $100 a box. The trick with my poor Kaldheim here, the side note that I mentioned in my other video, I'm a sucker for anything snow and ice theme. Don't ask. The Kaldheim stuff, there's no box topper, and there are good cards in the set, but there's not a particular like bombshell card. In the collector boosters, that's a bit of a different story. You've got your Vorinclex chase card. Theros is another box to maybe bring up here. So Theros Beyond Death, I think that this is another good set that'll age well. It's funny to look back on this being kind of like a dud when it came out. This is a set that's $100 a box consistently right now. It's going to stay there for probably a little while because there's no X factor in the box that's moving it. Right? There's no crazy card that is somehow spiking or some pushed mythic that's part of a really critical modern deck or something like that. It's the gods, some other good stuff, some utility cards, and then not much after that. And there's no set boxes in Theros either. It's draft or collector. So draft boxes of Theros at $100, it's fine. It's just not a deal, but it depends on what you want and what your time span is. So that brings me to maybe this over here. So what about like collector boxes of different ilk? I think that collector boxes are right now it's like there's Kamigawa and everything else. So I think it's always wise, because collector boxes are a fixed quantity, but they're less of a fixed quantity than draft boosters. And that sounds like a dumb thing to say, but we're told that these are only ever printed one time. We kind of get a feel for how much is out there because we see it all available in the launch of a set. If there's an extra little palette that gets flooded to Amazon or something, we see that and we pick up on that too, but we know that that's it. I like collector boosters. They're a little more expensive. If you have a smaller budget, don't buy collector booster boxes. Honestly, that's my opinion. If you have a smaller budget and you can maybe pick up like a booster box every 2 months or 3 months, let's say, I would not buy collector boosters. Buy what you can. You might wait around half a year to save up to buy one collector booster box, and then you're talking about really trying to get that timing right. I'm convinced that there's always going to be a moment where there is a draft box available for a good price. There may not always be for a collector booster. And you might be putting too many eggs in one basket. So Kaldheim, for example, I was so excited. Again, Kaldheim, I love Kaldheim. I was so excited when this came out. I pre-ordered a collector booster just to open. So that's kind of big. I don't really open a lot of collector boosters just for myself. I open them for other reasons, but just for me to thumb through and keep, that's kind of rare. But I opened this and I was really excited to do so, but I paid like the $200 that they were pre-ordering for, and I thought that was fine. I thought that's just what a collector booster was supposed to cost and stay there and only get more expensive. But I paid $150 shipped for these recently. I paid $145 shipped for these recently. I paid $160 shipped for this and this recently. That's not $200. There's something depressing the price of these, and it's sitting at the top of the screen here. Although these prices have been depressed for a little bit. Picking up a kind of a distressed asset, as you might call it, it's definitely part of an investing philosophy. Diversification by buying, say, an index fund, you're going to get exposure to really good assets and really distressed assets all in the same purchase. Buying Magic products that are sealed, you're sort of creating your own level of exposure. You're designing your own exposure. It's up to you. Do you buy all of one box? Do you buy a little bit of everything? Do you only buy collectors? Do you buy collectors and drafts? You're mixing and creating this exposure for yourself. Again, that's it. I'm sort of biasing the long-term view here, but I don't think that picking up collector boxes of sets that you feel slightly unimpressed by is a horrible idea. But that segues into another thing here. Buy what you love. Do not view this like a robot. There are so many other things that are so much easier to do and spend your time and money on than buying sealed Magic product, finding a place to put it in, losing square footage in your home or apartment for it, having to sell it, dealing with fraud, dealing with shipping, going to the post office, etc., waiting a long time. There's an easier way to speculate on buying things if that's all you care about and you don't have any affinity for the subject matter. That's going to make this so much less fun. I absolutely love Magic. I've loved it my whole life. It is the extra thing that I do. It is the hobby that I enjoy. So I enjoy just owning and holding. I just like holding this stuff right now, even just talking to you. So these are a little bit distressed. I think it's nice to pick up stuff that's a really good deal. Like $150 for a collector booster box is like inexcusable to me. So I gladly pick those up. I'll try to move this along here. I know this is taking forever. This is one other thing I want to end on here. So I want to end on Neon Dynasty and being careful. So draft boxes right now, I scooped up a ton of draft boxes at the wholesale price. If you've got access to that, excellent. Try and find a way to do that. I always buy on a cashback credit card, so it knocks a couple bucks off of every booster box I ever buy, which is kind of helpful when we're talking about this type of price point. But buying Kamigawa Neon Dynasty draft boxes at around $90, I think is fine. Like it's like, will they go down to 85? Maybe. But if they were ever 90, like if Theros and Eldraine and War of the Spark and Zendikar, if those were 90, we'd buy them all day right now, I think. So buying Kamigawa Neon Dynasty at 90 now and then just getting sort of that acquisition out of the way, I think is fine. These are nuts right now. Neon Dynasty collector boosters are insane. They're gone. Like that's nuts. They were gone within 2 weeks of launch. There's no more. I mean, they're for sale, but you cannot go direct through Wizards distribution on Amazon and buy these anymore. So as a result, they're pushing $300 a piece. Now, this is another wholesale source for me. I like to just get them that way and then get it out of the way. I don't want to have to hunt for these anymore. And, I'm glad I did, but does that mean I won't buy more at these prices? It doesn't mean that. I would like to wait and see what happens. If these dip down and start to approach $200 over time, I will be right there with you buying a bunch. But right now, I'm not going to touch these for that price. They are inflated because there is a card worth several $1,000s floating around in these. That's never happened before. We're in uncharted territory, new waters for collector boxes. So you've got to be careful. And last thing I would say about being careful, watch out for these punk listings on eBay in particular. They'll try, they might show a stack of several booster boxes, but the auction is for one. It's like, why don't you just show one? Like, why are you trying to confuse people, Or a listing might be for a really low price on a draft box, but if you read carefully, they're only selling you 15 or half of the box contents, right? But you've got to dig through the description, which no one does, and find that out. So you're either getting a bad deal on half a box worth of boosters, or you think you're getting a good deal on a box, and it's not. It doesn't appear fraudulent because it's clearly listed that way, but it's just confusing because the picture is the booster box. The picture is not 15 booster packs laid out, which you could also do in Photoshop with a JPEG of a booster wrapper. So I don't know why people don't do that. So careful. Also, watch out right now because things are going gangbusters. Watch out for listings that seem too good to be true from people with zero feedback. Nothing against eBayers with zero feedback, but you've got a lot of options out there from people who have sold hundreds of thousands of boxes on eBay. I'd buy from them. Last thought, like I say, any draft box around $90 or a set box around $95, that's okay. Anything better than that is good. That's just my opinion. If you wait and are patient, deals will present themselves over time. And the last little tidbit I would give is pay attention to the make offer aspect of eBay. There's a saying, if you can't find a deal, make one. And I really like that mindset. It's a good mindset to get into. It's like if you can't find opportunity, build a door. All those platitudes that are out there. But you'd be surprised what you can offer people on eBay because you don't know their situation. I have gotten, even lately, some tremendous deals. Just reaching out to people and starting up a dialogue saying, hey, I'd really like to buy this right now. I am a guaranteed sale. I'm not a shyster. Check my feedback. It's going to a good home. I'm a nice guy, yada, yada. If you can let this go for X, I'll pay for it right now and you'll never hear from me again. No trouble at all. What do you say? And sometimes people are like, you know what? Fine. Like, let me just dump all this stuff. You take it. I'm done. I free up the space. If they're a card store, maybe they're freeing up some capital that they've got trapped in something and every second matters. And rather than wait 4 more days for something to sell, they can unload it to me like right now. So, hey, go out and try to make a deal maybe. I don't know. Give it a shot. So I think that's probably a good place to end this. I really appreciate everybody hanging in there and listening to me. I know this took forever, but what are your thoughts? Do you have any favorites? Are you buying anything? Or do you think I'm crazy? Have I missed something? Did I leave out your favorite box to buy right now? I'd love to hear in the comments below. Let me know what you're up to, and we can kind of share thoughts back and forth. If you have a good source, maybe provide sources for folks below. Whatever you think is helpful. So this has been great. I hope everybody's gleaned something from this. I certainly have in listening to all of you. So again, if you'd like to follow along, be sure to like, comment, subscribe so you don't miss another chat. I'll try to be as frequent as I possibly can. Until next time, thanks for watching.